And if these guys can make such a decision, can make such sacrifice, then who am I? Like, why can't I do this? So that was when I made the decision. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I'm in. Like, I'm in. It will take a while to figure this out, but I'm in. And so moved back to Nigeria, moved to Akwa Ibom, and was there. Tried to spend time figuring out what do I even build. And ultimately, that's how, my co-founders and I, we started to work on Kippa. Did that for about 4 years. Moved on from it last year. I'm currently working on something new. But for me, it's just, it's two things. On the one hand, it is intrinsic. You want to play at the edge of your own potential, and you don't want safety. You want to be exposed to risk in some sense. And there's aspects of your intrinsic motivation that sets on fire. And on the other hand, it's just like, look, there's so many problems that if you say you're intelligent, then solve a problem. Like, that's, for me, I think that has become the ultimate bar for that I'm setting for myself for intelligence. It's not knowing words and knowing things. It is, if you say you're intelligent, try to solve a problem. You won't always succeed, you won't always succeed, but try to solve a problem. Go all in at it and know when you're done. And when we decided to move on from Kippa, when we made the decision to shutter the company and move on, mixed reactions, like, oh, but I'm like, well, a lot of people who you get reactions like that from have never tried anything. Have never tried anything. So Naval said something like, intelligence is getting out of life what you want out of it. That's it. So that's,
I think it's important because sometimes we live in a world where people don't know how to cope with what's not working.
Yeah.
Culturally, they'll say, give him more time, right? And there is the tension of the pride of some entrepreneurs that will say things like, I don't know how to give up. God didn't build it in my DNA. And so how do we find the balance for people that feel like, no, I don't know how to give up, and they stay in something longer than they should?
Yeah.
And for people that feel like, okay, I think it's time to quit, and they quit too early. There is always the art of the balance.
Yeah.
Knowing, how did you feel you were not quitting too early or you were not staying too long? And just knowing precisely when is the time. And also dealing with investors, because sometimes it's easier when it's still an idea.
Yeah.
When you have investors, funds, and they're all looking at it like, guys, what's the milestone, what's the numbers? And the model is not yielding.
Yeah.
And convincing them becomes a challenge, because for some of them who don't understand the market or in the industry, they feel like you're not giving it enough time. You're not pushing hard enough. You guys are not paying attention. There's no focus here. So how do you navigate all of those things?
I didn't have any troubles on that front. Thankfully, we had investors who are by and large quite reasonable people, and some of them just really endearing people, who have built things themselves and understand how things go. And they were up to date along, the different phases of the journey with all of the micro pivots and many experiments, and the rationale for, okay, this is why. And ultimately, as founders, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, you have to understand that your destiny is in your hands. And if people back to you because of the insight you have, and there's a reason why you're the founder. And being a founder, when you think about it, what is a job that a founder does? It's make decisions. That is, a founder is not the best operator. A founder is not the most experienced person, but a founder is the person who is able to amalgamate different sources of information, combine it with your intuition, and make this. I feel like the CEO title should be Chief Decision Maker title. And that's it. And that's what people pay you for. When you have a CEO, it's to make decisions, make hard and easy decisions. So, on the investors part, like, it was a very, clear, and relatively not complex process, just because we had really great people around the table who understood. But also, when you think about it, what does quitting mean? Is quitting, okay, you're leaving this thing and you're going into a cave to bury yourself. Oh my God, this didn't work. Jesus Christ, I was 25 years old and I have 70, productive years. Okay, maybe that's too much, but 60 productive years of my life ahead of me. So it is, okay, this didn't work, and there's very many experiments that that went into it, and you figure that out, you have the conversation with your team, and you come to that point. But okay, how do I how do I take all of these lessons to improve the chances of success for all the things I'm going to do next? But more importantly, what am I learning about myself? What am I learning about my life's mission? What am I learning about the things that I should be, spending
about the
time
environment that is Nigerian.
Yes.
About finding the team, hiring right.
Yes.
And all of those things. Because success oftentimes is an amalgamation.
Yeah.
Right. There's the environmental factor. There is also the ecosystem factor. But looking at startups in Nigeria today, many people are of the opinion that, you said, I rather start something than get a job and work in a big company. Today, most people are already in that space where they're being motivated and inspired to start.
Yeah.
Do you think there should be deeper motivations powering our art of start? In a sense where that the desire to start is a great invitation, but should we also pay attention to the value of what the value creation process, or is it discovery? It's something that unfolds, or it's something that I see a need here. I think this guy puts it very right. And what's his name? My good friend Olumide Showboy. It said, yes, there is a gap in the market, but is there a market in the gap? Right? So you can still, this thing is not there, but what's the size of the market? Yeah. So they tell us that maybe 75% of startups fail within the first 5 years, another 30% join. So in Nigeria, it becomes too high a number. And you start thinking, okay, is it because we don't have it, we're undercapitalized, or is it because we're in a hostile environment? There are multiplicity of factors, but I think if anybody can speak to it, are those who have worn the shoes.
Yeah.
In being an entrepreneur myself, I've seen evolutions.
Yeah.
I've seen death and I've seen death, I've seen life. I've seen rebirth, right? And every time you reborn with new lessons, new discoveries, that you're not the same entrepreneur. Yeah. You're not the same guy. Yeah. Like you never step in the same water twice. Yeah. I think with entrepreneurship and every pursuit, but just really looking at that startup culture and trying to understand what does it need? What do we need? Or what do we need to tell our startups today to increase that potential for success?
I don't know what to tell startups directly, but I think for people who are considering starting a startup, firstly, just be sure, I think make the commitment. I want to be an entrepreneur. And that is the primary vehicle through which you would make your life gifts manifest. I think we need people at jobs, but for some people, it's a lifestyle. It's beyond a certain company, because if you make that decision, I see a problem, no matter what problem you identify first, you would realize how almost like childish your initial thought of what the problem is. As you go deeper, you're like, whoa, it's a much more complex problem. It's a much bigger problem. And if starting out your motivation to become an entrepreneur was tied to this is the problem, once you discover it's a complex problem, it becomes difficult for you to stay. But when you say, look, I'm going to go and I'm committing myself to this journey of being an entrepreneur, of using my skills, using my network, using my resources and everything I have to try to solve a problem in a specific, area, then it becomes easier for you to withstand challenges overall. But one of the things I've learned, from the past 5 years or so, and especially while building Keepa, is just, you also have to pay attention to your intrinsic motivation. And as you build, get much clearer on what is your life's mission. I believe that there are people who are building companies or trying to build companies that they are so disconnected from. And I think YC puts it nice when they say like a founder market fit. I think that is incredibly necessary. There are things that should make you look at the things that make you sick in your stomach, like make you want to throw up. And I believe if you find a really good problem, and you get the most difficult thing is getting clarity on the problem. And so if I could go back, what would I do differently? There's a lot of time. And before we started building Keepa, we traveled, we went on the road, we went to spend time in markets, we lived in Aba for a bit to just get close to businesses, right? We moved to Akwa Ibom, we were there we hit the street. So for us, you have to play by the book, and that's really ingrained in our DNA. But your understanding of the problem, you'll get smarter about the problem over time, and you see it for the multiple-headed snake that it is. So I think it's very important to, I'm saying many things, but as an entrepreneur, figure out your life mission. And when you figure it out, don't try to lie to yourself. Don't try to pretend to yourself. There are many entrepreneurs who are not making hard decisions. When we announced the decision to specifically pull back keeper pay before we even shuttered, keeper specifically, a very senior member in the ecosystem called me, why didn't you guys just coast? I'm like, really? Like, is that what you would do? Maybe that's what you're doing, and I know that's probably what they're doing. Coast. Like, I'm 25 and you say I should coast, like, for how many years should I coast? 5 years, 10 years, and spend the rest of my life coast? Like, it's madness. It doesn't make no sense. And I think people need to filter the sort of advice that they're getting, and so yeah.
I would also talk about, I know you're a dreamer and you're a builder and you're onto something exciting on this. I don't know if you have the space to share that yet. So tell us
what I'm building next.
Yes.
Not yet.
Okay, let's talk about why you're still in Nigeria, why you're still in Africa, because we take that for granted, right? These days, the way for many young people is, guys, on the other side of the Mediterranean Sea are your opportunities. So everyone is looking to America, to Canada, to Australia. But Africa is a continent whose time has come, they say. Africa is a continent who is still a sleeping giant. And what are your plans to waken these giants?
In many ways, we me staying back here, it's not even from I am just a martyr for the continent. That's not what it is. It's because I'm happiest at home. I am in the center of my of God's will for my life here at this point in time in my life. And in many ways, I deeply believe that if we get it right, Africa has the opportunity to be the world center in maybe 100 to 150 years. It might not even take that long. Like, if we get it right, there's many things that only we have, especially and by culture, I don't just mean arts and craft and how we dress, but from a cultural sense of knowing who we are, from a the moral order, the spiritual order that is a prerequisite for societies to build prosperity. Africa is one of the last places in the world where you still have that.